Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hash Rate. My guest today is Max Sebti of the Optic Nerve of AI score Subnet 44. Hello, Max. How you doing?
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm doing really well. Super excited to be, featured on your show. That's great.
I mean, at last, right? I mean, you're a major subnet, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get to you. And I feel somewhat embarrassed that Scoble got to you before I did.
He was good on that. He was good on that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Scoble, he's been around. I don't know did you know who he was before you went on the show? Okay,
Yeah, obviously. I mean, he's got a large account, and I mean, he's super respected. So I was kind of impressed to be featured like so quickly on his channel. But that was a great conversation. I also noted that you also went and talked to him about Bittensor.
I did. Yeah. I did, but you kicked open the door. I got to be honest. I mean, I've known Scoble. I mean, sort of. I've known Scoble since like 2007, 2008. I was CTO of Mahalo, where Jason Calacanis was the CEO, right? So there's like a 4-year stretch where, the Mahalo offices were sort of like Warhol's loft, where like, Elon was walking in the front door, this person, that person, like anyone who was sort of note in that era was in that office more or less continuously, including like celebrities. And, it was pretty awesome to be in that office, I have to say. Looking back now, right? So, at the time I was working my ass off, so it didn't feel as awesome as it actually was if I just stood up and smelled the flowers a little bit more, right? So, but nonetheless, so Scoble used to come in the offices and we got to know each other. But I was a CTO. I wasn't like the founder or something like that. So, he vaguely knew who I was. And then on X more recently, we started interacting a lot more because I have a Vision Pro. And I'm a Vision Pro aficionado, as is he, right? So that's sort of, so that's where the love started. Then you went on his show, right? So he's been seeing me post about Bittensor now for like the last year, but sort of like, I don't know what that is. It's some crypto thing. I don't care. Then you went on his show, and then I started, pointing out like, hey, look, Scoble's paying attention to a subnet. And then he reached out to me. He's like, hey, you want to come on and explain like what this is? So thank you. So I have to give you credit for that. So good job.
Appreciate this. And also, thanks for what you're doing for the ecosystem. I mean, that's amazing to have such platforms.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's jump into what you're doing here. So the Optic Nerve of AI, you're basically solving computer vision. But what I like about what you're doing, I want you to tell me, what I'm getting right here and what I'm not. So it's, broadly computer vision, but you were focusing on you're crossing the chasm, as they say, like you're segmenting the market into something with revenue that you can get at right now. And that is supplying sports teams with intelligence, kind of like a Moneyball thing about their team. So tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's pretty much that. But I think there's a very strong reason why we started with football and soccer and sports is because we identified that as a new team on Bittensor, we had to be very focused on proving that we could use the tech to then go to market and really make something out of the subnet. So. We're still extremely well connected in this world, but we also actually realized that the main problem in sports at the moment is on the data annotation end. So it's very hard for people to upload a video somewhere online and get data annotation, in a very accurate way, fast way, and also in an affordable way. So we started with this in mind. Obviously, we had this customer, a sports hedge fund trying to work with us and use our data and also our AI capabilities to get to better insights, I would say. But the very, very, very first problem we had to solve to kind of come on Bittensor and brag about being the optic nerve of AI, it was to find a good way to annotate data. So if I take you through the actual tech we're trying to build, it's pretty simple. It's in 3 steps. And all the companies that are using video and as core of their operations go through this process. So what you need to do when you want to handle video, at scale and build models and train models on top of the video is you have to annotate the data first. It's a 3-step process. You annotate the data, then you understand what's happening, on the screen. So so the first step is called tracking.
I'm sorry, can I stop you there? So when you say annotate,
Yeah.
What does that mean specifically? Is it like I see 8 players, one of them's running towards the net? Like, tell me what that is.
Yeah, sorry about that. So when I say tracking data or annotation, it's literally coordinates. So you want to know that a player has been moving from, one side of the pitch to the other side of the pitch, that the ball has been moving in a certain way, or that the corner flag is actually not moving, but, located at a very specific point, on the pitch. So that's the first step. So it's purely coordinates. And flagging, the different type of objects or characters, people, athletes, yada, yada, yada. So that's the first step. So this is what we call annotation. Then you need to run neural networks, different architectures, to understand the events. So, has a player scored a goal? Has a player, injured themselves? And this is more this is deeper than just tracking what's happening on the screen. It's you get to a point where you let the machine understand exactly the type of events that is happening on the pitch. And then there's a third step, and this is how we build our tech, is when you have historical data and you annotate it, and then you run neural networks through the data. Then what you can do is you can try to find predictability. So you run inference basically on the data you collected and train the model on, so that you could ingest real-time data. So that's the peak. That's what you want to achieve. Is you want your tech to be able to be smart enough to send you insights or share insights in real time.
When you say share insights, are you trying to predict the future, or are you just analyzing what you're seeing?
So both. So you're analyzing what you're seeing, but then you try to predict the next frame. So it's not. It's a very short, version of the future. It's the next frame, and it's critical because every time an object is moving frame by frame, you can deduct what's it's likely to happen. And this is why it's so critical, because you can think about obviously sports, you can think about robotics, self-driving cars, drones, yada yada yada.
Very interesting. So, okay. So when you set up these competitions, well, actually, let's talk about what the sports teams are paying you for this right now, right? So that all sounds kind of awesome. You can understand what you're seeing. How do I benefit from that? Like, how do I make more money as a sports team by using this data, or I guess win more?
So I would say, the first customers are like sports hedge funds, so sports data companies and teams. We are working with them. So the difference is simple. So when you're like a sports team, what you want to do is you want to be more efficient with your recruitment. So the first use case is scouting. So you actually don't need real-time data for scouting, purposes. But the funny thing is, you start with scouting, and if you really trust the system, you run the same process in-game, and then you have a very strong management tool, because it's actually the same thing. You're scoring a player, you're scoring a system, you're scoring a formation, you're scoring, you can score different things with, getting data through this workflow. The sports companies like hedge funds or, betting syndicates, what they want to do is basically find an edge. And the reason they think our approach is interesting is because we control everything from the video footage to the insights, and we are literally creating new data sets. So within this new data, they think they would find new edges, and also they think they would benefit from being able to analyze real-time data, because they would be able also to place bets in-game. So that's why they're so excited about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. Okay. So that does make sense. So with the scouting, I guess the efficiency is that you can understand a vast amount of video very quickly. Yeah. Whereas, without you guys. So let's play the game of It's a Wonderful Life, right? Remember the plot where, the plot is we remove George from the timeline, right? Yeah. Yeah. And then, then we see like the mess that would have happened without him, right? Yeah. So if without you guys in the picture, what do these sports teams, what's their alternative universe look like?
So what they do right now, it's there's an asymmetry. So if you're like a top team and you have a lot of money, you have access to strong platforms, but you don't have access to like low tier leagues. You have like good data for good teams, good players, and you end up paying players very at a very high price, because for players to get on your radar, they probably have to perform pretty well at a high level. So what they have right now is platforms with like hours of videos, but it's not automated. They have to hire a lot of scouts to go through the data and then travel to see the players, and so it's very expensive. It's manual. It's it's human based, but you still need human beings in this process. But I would say the filtering parts of the job is a heavy lift, and it's getting worse when you go down through the leagues. So if you're like a semi-pro club or even like a low-level club in Europe, for instance, you don't have enough resources to get access to scouting data. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to pay platforms like 6TV or Huddle, and you have to go through like tens of thousands of hours of videos, and maybe by chance finding someone who would fit with your system, but also you don't have any capabilities to really share with the market that one of your players. So if you're like a low level club, if you have a good player, and if your business model is based on selling your good players to top clubs, you don't really have a marketplace to do that. You have to know everyone. You have to be connected to agents. You have to be connected to top clubs. What we're trying to do and what we're trying to bring is a way for a whole industry to get the data together, create like a whole data set, regardless of the video quality too, because it's very important. Most of top clubs are working with 4K cameras, so everything is perfect, but they actually create systems that are not really resilient. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a system where even with low-level quality video, we would be able to find gems. So we structure all the data, and then we make sure that everyone can query the data, basically. And the heavy lift for us is to create a scoring system that would be trusted across all leagues. And then you would create a standard where people would be able to even film their kids playing soccer, and they would go and be uploaded into this data set and maybe fit with other. So that's
like
much the vision.
Self-scouting, right? You're like, my kid's pretty good. So I'm going to take some video.
This is a strong use case. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to take some video of my kid and upload it to this scouting, universe. And hopefully somebody will, the system will agree that he's a good player, and that'll kick up, be like, hey, I found a guy. Yeah. Or a woman. I don't want to say it's again necessarily. So yeah, could be anybody. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Wow. So basically the big clubs have the dollars to use the big AI, right? So I imagine some of the big clubs are already using sort of big AI.
Yeah, some of them are working with Palantir. Some of them are working with OpenAI, Anthropic. I mean, they can throw money out on the table. So it's not really a problem for them, as long as you keep good quality video. So I think there's this, I would say, ceiling, and then they still have the same problem to kind of find gems at lower levels.
Yeah, but you make it accessible to the, to sort of the long tail of the clubs, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
your expenses are quite a bit less. Yeah. Or you're charging quite a bit less, right? Yeah. Do you have an idea? What is sort of the delta between you?
Yeah, definitely. So, and by the way, this is very interesting because our thesis is SCORE should be addressing the long tail of all the companies, entities that would need to leverage computer vision, but that wouldn't get, they wouldn't have the resources to do it. So this is a very strong point you just mentioned. So if you compare, so I'm not going to mention any specific clubs, but most of top level clubs are spending between $1 and $3 million per year on scouting data, on data analytics and scouting data. So if you think about something like SCORE, we would do it at like a 100th of the price.
100th of a price? Oh my God! Yeah, because that is insane. Actually, that's the biggest delta I've heard yet of any BitTensor product. Because I've been looking at Hippias is I think it's like 1/40th of the price or something like that,
which is amazing.
Which is amazing in itself, right? So for storage, that's a storage. It's sort of like Filecoin for those who don't know.
I mean, the reason being is Hippias is competing against other already automated solutions. Yada yada. We're competing against human centric annotation. So that's the reason why we can reach that level, because we are automating something that is usually done by human beings.
Okay, so now and I love the fact that you're generating revenue right away. And you're doing a lot of you're acting like a real company, right? You're acting like a grown up, which I love. I love the BitTensor hippie kind of vibe too. I mean, I think there's something great. I mean, Bitcoin's got that same vibe, right? Yeah. So that's awesome also. but also acting like a real company is awesome as well. And I think if you combine the two of those, you have something extremely powerful, right? Best of both worlds. You're making revenue right now. Have you talked about how much revenue you're making?
Not yet. So we've been talking about our first customer, the sports hedge fund. So we have a deal with them. We're going to take 20% of the upside of what they generate with the money. There's no downside, but obviously it's something fee based. So I think the only way people will realize the amount of money generated is going to be through buybacks. And that's going to be, for us, the easiest way to prove that revenue is kicking in.
By buybacks, you mean you're going to buy your own Subnet token?
Yeah, Subnet 44 token. So we've been, discussing, negotiating. So we are really close to getting recurring revenue from different clubs or sports entities, let's say. But I don't want to sell vaporware. So we will announce things when they happen.
Again, behaving like a normal grown-up company. So I love that. And so the total addressable market I read somewhere in your materials is 600 billion. I guess that's all of football.
Yeah, that's all of football. Yeah,
so not really your total addressable market.
No. So that's very interesting because obviously we have. So it's funny because we're at the intersection of two different markets. The first one is obviously sports analytics, and you can add betting there because they're just paying for data. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
it's already a big enough market for us. Our TAM on that market would be close to 1.5 billion. Our TAM, not just the entire market.
Got it.
If we talk about something else, something I'm passionate about, which is data annotation, what we have to realize is actually what we are doing with sports can be done with other type of industries, and then the market would be completely different. We would be competing against company like Scale AI, for instance, on the video end of the annotation. And for people who probably don't know, they've just been acquired north of 30 billion by Meta.
Yes.
Which is exciting because it's a big number. But what is exciting too is that obviously since they're now working with Meta, all of the tech companies are not working with them anymore. So it's opening up a huge market share. But anyway, so I don't want to, again, I can sell the dream. I'm very passionate. We're very passionate about what we do. But we're going to be focused on the next 6 months to really start selling products in the sports market and hopefully generate as much revenue as possible.
Is there any sort of worry? I was actually been listening to some of the other podcasts that Siam has been doing, basically hash rate, but sort of a micro version of it that he calls revenue search. And he's been doing one a day, sometimes two a day, right? So he's going a lot faster than I am. I like doing the deeper dives.
Yeah.
But he's 15 minutes. And one of the things that popped out, I was watching the one with gradients last night, and they were talking about how in order to sell their product to enterprise customers, there's this sort of reluctance because what the subnet is doing is they're giving it the data that is to be ingested to miners, and we don't, who knows who the miners are, right? They could be anybody. So the prospective customers are like, well, we trust you, gradients guys. We don't trust these 256 miners that aren't docs. We don't know who they are. Is there any sort of hesitation, do you think, in your world with the data that you're crunching, or does that just kind of not exist?
No. So this is a very interesting question, and that's the reason why we decided to work with one key partner. We've announced that we've been working with 6TV on getting the data. Reason we did this is because they know that what we're doing on Bittensor right now, and they're very excited about this new AI capability. So we kind of solve this problem by signing the right type of agreement with one key data provider. It's a positive, but it's also negative. The negative part of that is obviously it's less of a decentralized type of play. So, we had to know who's going to, everyone knows who's providing the data. But the good part is everything is done in a very clean way. We're not trying to acquire data by, scrapping it here and there or, going behind the customer's back. So, and the funny thing is because football is, soccer, in Europe is kind of a democratized type of game, they already have access to lower leagues, semi-pro. So it was a way for us to really do it in a clean way from a data perspective. I don't know if it's a good answer, but this is what we try to do.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. It's I think it's probably less applicable to you guys, but I wasn't sure, and I know it keeps coming up. Like I keep hearing that as a worry for people to why they don't like Bittensor, why they actually like the centralized services, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't have to talk about score, because obviously I'm more, if I'm honest with you, I'm more passionate about Bittensor itself than just my own subnet, if that makes sense. We're extremely well connected with hedge funds and financial institutions, and actually this is the main problem. So the reason we see probably less hedge funds on Bittensor right now is because we don't have a way to protect, or maybe we have a way, but it's not democratized enough yet, or shared with the whole ecosystem. But yeah, we will probably need to work on something from an ecosystem perspective.
Well, my understanding is that both Shoots and Targon are working on trusted execution environments, right? Sense. Which that's the solution, where basically that data is now obfuscated. Even though you're mining, you don't know what's going on inside your miner, right? And in terms of the data, anyway, you don't know exactly what's going on. Which I don't know how that does that prevent people from tweaking it effectively? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we should ask. Them.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Brains. I'm just a football fan.
I'm just a football fan. I don't know how these bits and bats and fancy technology works. I just love them in my football. Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. So, okay. So, one of the things that comes up on X, I've now sort of started encountering the Borg or the trolls on X. Now that I've sort of stuck my neck out in support of Bittensor, and I'm talking a lot about TAO, right? So one of the sort of themes that has arisen lately is, every mining pool can be replaced with a colo facility. What's to prevent subnets once they achieve scale or real world success from just kind of looking at their token, their subnet token and ecosystem and miners and going, you know what, fuck all those people and those guys and those token holders. I'm just going to set up my own mining rigs and just mine it all myself. And actually, I'm not going to even pay attention to the token. I'm just going to pay attention to my equity and make that bigger and bigger and bigger. Do you think that's a danger? And what do you think about that?
So that's definitely a risk. I think we're probably going to see some teams doing this. I don't even really know what would prevent people from doing this. I would just say that it would completely break the very reason why we started a subnet in the first place. I think we should always see Bittensor as an ongoing, flywheel where we would always be SOTA, state of the art. And I think to be honest with you, I think the incentive for businesses to always be state of the art is probably bigger because, the AI race is moving at a pace. And even if, as a team, you feel like you've reached a level where you find you can keep selling your product, you don't know if in a few weeks' time or months' time, OpenAI is not going to go and bring something way faster, more efficient than what you're doing. And then if you break the relationship with your miners and with your ecosystem, then you are stuck because no one would trust you anymore, and your product is going to be stuck too. I don't know if I can say this, but I would definitely say it. So we're trying to raise money at the moment. We're not just trying, we're raising money at the moment. Yeah. And basically what we say, so we are stating different things because for us it's very important. First, everything we do is around being a subnet, like a company running a subnet. So our North Star is to push our dTAO in the subnet. Obviously internally we have a target, from a ranking perspective, but I'm not going to jinx it.
Sure.
So I'm not going to talk about that. And the second thing we say is everyone who would jump on board from an investment perspective would have equity and a token warrant. And if the company goes one way or the other, everyone would benefit from that. So we couldn't move away from the subnet. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
So investors know that the subnet for us is core and center. And we would be crazy not to think about it this way, because how could you kickstart something like Score, literally save $500,000 a month in compute and salaries, because that's pretty much what's happening, and then just move away when we're good, we're okay, thank you guys, you just funded our business, but now we're good and we're going to go. I wouldn't be able to go to bed or wake up and see myself in the mirror.
Yeah, so it's not just like you're being loyal to your subnet because you have this hippie sort of aficionado vibe with Bittensor. It's actually very practical, right? So you could not have booted up this business. No. You've basically got 256 people that are working for you for free.
Yeah,
right?
That's crazy to move away from that. Just crazy from a business perspective.
Right, and you're saving. I guess you said $500,000, right? I don't know over what time frame, but whatever. It's significant. Per month. Oh my God. Okay. So millions per year, 6 million a year, enough to build a bionic man, right? In the 70s anyway. So that's a lot, right? So, and so but even when you get out of the boot up phase, those same people that are working for you for free, and we'll get into what that means exactly in a second, because I do want to push this point for people who don't understand this. They will be the people, those 256 miners are very clever people from all over the world who are continuously working to tweak what they're doing for you to make it better and better and better and better so that they earn more Bittensor TAO tokens and your subnet token, right? So to make, basically make money. And this is the key point. So the idea is that as TAO becomes more and more valuable, right? So you got something that's sort of like a Bitcoin-ish thing. It worked once, so we're trying to do it again, but with different rules for the miners. So theoretically, TAO becomes more and more valuable over time, like Bitcoin did, and so far it has. So all the 256 miners in each subnet, not just yours, are working like monkeys to try to figure out how to get more of it faster early on, right? Because right now the getting is good. It's like mining Bitcoin in 2013. Oh my God, how much can you mine, right? That's now it's worth $112,000 as of today, right? Like if you just get it early and hold on to it, you're going to make out like a bandit, right? So, and for companies, this dynamic, this Bitcoin-like dynamic, results in free labor and free GPU, right? So and free smarts, right? Free brains attacking your problem.
And that's a proof of intelligence.
Yes. So I would say. And it keeps you hanging around. Like when you think about leaving, you're like, well, I don't know, because I lose all those brains, I lose all those GPU, I lose all that cost savings. Why would I do that? That's dumb. So that's the answer. Yes?
Yeah, that's the answer. And also, I've been talking with VCs from the Valley, and we've been talking, back and forth about Bittensor, Web2 AI research labs, and at some point we talked about a team. I don't know if we can name them, but they had a subnet and then they decided to run their own token. And basically, even VCs from the Valley told me, I don't know, why would you do this? Because you're
this being the two token system, or using
no, just moving out. So having a subnet first.
Yeah.
And then like throwing the subnet away and launching and they were telling me it's just crazy. You have access to a legit AI research lab. There's an incentive mechanism that is, proving that people are pushing your tech, and you would try just for maybe, good, bad reasons, move away from this and then just throw that away. I mean, even for them, that was like such a weird and almost dumb move. So I think for teams that would be thinking like this, they should probably think twice. I think that's not a very good idea.
That's a great answer. Thank you. And I'm glad we explored this, because that this question comes up a lot on X. I've had a number of people sort of come at me with it. And so I think it's great that, you're a button down real world company, right? Like if this were, if it made more sense for you to just ditch your subnet and take off, and go running down the road that way, you'd do it. Like, I have no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. So right? That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm very, very, revenue oriented and also profit oriented. And I'm telling you that having a subnet is way better than trying to be an AI research lab in Web2 or trying to do like another token on another chain or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard this before. So I have a friend named Fred Krueger. Yes, that's his real name. I don't know if you've heard of that guy or not.
Yeah.
He's an old friend of mine. He's sort of a Bitcoin maxi who's now become, he runs a subnet now. So he runs Subnet 90, and he's got a site called DGen Predict, and it's pretty much long tail poly market, right? you and I can't go make our own markets on Polymarket, but what if we could? That's degen predict. So now there's, at scale, millions of markets, right? So how do you judge who won, right? Like some of them are going to be very difficult. The only way to really judge it at scale is to have an AI adjudicate what happened, right? Yeah. And so his Subnet 90 is AI adjudication of a Polymarket-like system. And it turns out doing that's really hard, right? Because of the hallucination problems and how the betting market was stated, right? So getting it right is actually quite difficult. And so his subnet is the referees. And I asked him, I said, why don't you just do, and he's running, I know he's running, he's a big AI researcher guy on his own. He just loves tinkering with it. So he's bought computers where he's running AI models, and he's like, oh my God, it's got this box, knows all of human knowledge. You can ask it anything, and it's in this box. It blows his mind, and he loves playing around with it, right? So I'm like, and he's the kind of guy that would just do it himself. So I'm like, Fred, why don't you just screw this Bittensor stuff? Why don't you just go do it with your little box in your office that knows all of human history and just make that better? And he's like, well, because I have 256 researchers that are smarter at this stuff than I will ever be, and they're competing with each other to grab coin, this Bitcoin-like coin. They're just going to be better at it than I am, and they're going to move faster. So of course I'm going to do this, right? So I'm glad I'm hearing a consistent answer from people. So, okay, let's talk now a little bit about Bittensor in general. Yeah. So you've been watching the subnets. Subnets have been out now, what is it, 140 days ish at this point? Maybe 150 days?
dTAO?
Yeah, dTAO. Yeah. So sorry, it's dTAO I'm talking about, not subnets in general. And this is a system whereby each subnet has its own token, and that token, and there's basically like this Uniswap like thing built directly into the chain itself, where you're not required to stake TAO, but should you choose to accept your mission is there's 128 subnets. Take your TAO, stake it for subnet tokens, and you stake TAO, and you get subnet tokens back. And the idea is that hopefully that subnet token will become worth a lot. And when you trade out of it with the chain itself or unstaked TAO, there's a lot more TAO in there, and it's worth a lot more, right? That's the game. Yeah. So and if you choose right, you could like 10x your stack. I mean, it's not financial advice, but just sort of theoretically, you might 10x your stack. I've seen people 10x their stacks by doing this. But if you choose wrong, you could lose everything. You could lose all your TAO. Yeah. Like if that subnet becomes worthless, your TAO is now worthless that you put in there, or that someone else put in there. What do you think about this system? Is it working as expected? There's been a lot of sort of views on this. What are your views on dTAO and whether it's working as expected or not?
Yeah, that's a fair question, but I have to say, and I've been talking to OTF sometimes, to other people, other subnet owners about that. I'm a kind of pragmatic type of guy. So first of all, I want to say it is what it is, but so we have to play within the rules. I think there's a positive side of it. There's a negative side of it. I think the positive side of it is it's set up to bring attention and it's set up to bring liquidity. And I think it's a positive because basically I think that's the best fuel for growth that Bittensor could get. I'm talking to people from other ecosystems, from Solana, from ETH, and everyone agrees that this kind of launchpad kind of thing where you can pick your poison and you can, vouch for teams and push people to follow you. I mean, that's exciting in itself. Reality is, I think the pre-dTAO world was super easy, I would say, to navigate. And it was just based on your ability to advertise your subnet to a very small audience. Now the game is very much complex because you have to be a legit AI team. You have to be good at marketing. You have to go on podcasts and explain yourself. And people are asking you questions about revenue. Some subnets are extremely good, but they're not going to generate revenue in the next few months. So are we talking about the right metrics? So it's complex, and it brought complexity on top of something that was already complex. So I would say the negative point is even before dTAO, it was hard to explain Bittensor to people. And they were like, it's kind of an AI Web3 thing, but the chain actually is more, to handle the incentive mechanism than it is to, process AI on chain. So it was already like a long type of conversation where you had to talk about Bittensor. And now, but you did it pretty in a pretty beautiful way. But now you also have to explain dTAO, so sub tokens. You have to explain the fact that you can buy or sell, but actually you don't buy or sell. You stake. You're in stake.
Yeah.
So that's that. So I would say that but I like that because it created a new market, created almost like a new economy. And honestly, behind dTAO, you can almost feel, Const's character. Because, it's like you guys now do it and it's in your hands. And I like it because it's just a good game. But it's tough. It's really tough. Being a subnet owner is tricky, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like every time it's funny what you say about Const, because I feel like when I first heard about how it was going to work, I sort of had like a couple of weeks where I was like, why the fuck are they doing it? This is the weirdest thing. I've never seen anything like this. Like there are a lot of like what appeared to be bizarre choices, right? And I was like, oh fuck, these are like AI wonky guys sitting in a tower somewhere, and they're trying to do things like what they do on ETH and Solana, but they have to do it in this weird way. And the more I sort of sat with it, and actually it wasn't until I started playing with it that I sort of got this feeling of, oh, that's actually far more clever than I thought it was. Exactly. As I'm now using it, right? And in particular, the way, building the exchange into the chain itself, that was kind of weird, right? Staking to get things, that was kind of weird. But I realized that, this is driving value to TAO, right? Whether it doesn't matter which subnet tokens go up, as long as some of them do, right? As long as we have some winners, the value of TAO gets dragged up with everything, right? It's like a index fund of all the subnets, right? Or the best of the subnets, right? Maybe is a better way to say it. But also in particular, I love the fact that as someone who sometimes has advanced knowledge of things, because of the way the liquidity boots up inside of the subnet pools, which are baked into the chain, knowledge of the future gives you no advantage.
Yeah,
it's like you're on the level playing field with everyone else, which is extremely different from the Solana and Ethereum universes, right? Where insiders dumped on the people who came lately, right? Or later. That's just like that dynamic has completely been defeated. And I love that. I love it. Right. And it's a completely new mechanism that I've never seen anyone else do before. Right. So they weren't afraid to sort of do new things. And the more I sit with it, the more I really love it. My gripe has been continuously, the root is too damn high. However, as of this podcast, the root is no longer too damn high. Yeah, it's now settled into like around 10%, which I still think is a little too high, but that's like reasonable, right? That's not like crazy like the way it was. So I think it's sort of forcing people out of root. We're at like 9% now that are of TAO that's in subnets. Yeah. And it's climbing. Part of that climbing is because of emissions, but part of it is because more people are actually going into subnets. So the system appears to be getting healthier with every single day. And I think it sort of was unclear whether it was healthy in the beginning, but I think it looks healthy to me now. So
yeah, I share the same impression, and I've been asked directly by people if I wanted to change root cell pressure or stuff like that, and my answer was we should pick our battle. I think we should all work harder to bring new liquidity, rather than try to change the game for now, because I think 140 days or 150 days. That's not enough for us to really grasp the core concept behind that. So, it's been set up to bring liquidity. So let's try to just join forces all together and make sure we can bring fresh liquidity and get people to get attention to pay attention to TAO, basically.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I've seen some things that I can't talk about. That I think are going to launch pretty soon, which will basically bridge the Solana, Ethereum, and Base universes. And I've seen several things, and all of the things I've seen are fucking awesome.
Amazing.
And I'm super excited for the world to see it. And I think that if the Solana and Ethereum and Base worlds see this and sort of get what they're looking at, and get that the market caps of the subnets right now versus the venture-backed corollaries are just way out of whack, like in a good way, which provides a lot of opportunity, I think we will see a bunch of liquidity flood in, just in retail, but also the hedge funds, and there's an awful large number of entities which are now booting up for institutional. That is, I think, about to enter specifically in the subnets, and I'm hearing that like from every direction. And I'm, one of, I was talking with a guy who works with Arca at an event like maybe a month ago, and he was basically telling me that, like, the only sort of coin, one of the coins that they just get requested information on continuously is TAO, because a lot of people don't know how to get into it, right? Like, it's weird and hard to get into. So they're like, how do I get into these subnets? Like, where's the front door and how do I get in? Right? You just don't go to Coinbase and buy shoots. Not yet.
But I've been talking to some tier one exchanges that are trying to list subnet tokens, but it's a journey because of the tech choices that have been made. But I'm sure it's going to happen pretty much soon. And I agree with you. We had conversations with a lot of hedge funds in New York mainly. So my business partner Nigel is currently in New York, and everyone was trying to buy TAO. And that's funny. Even our data science main person, who's a chief data scientist for a large hedge fund. I think the most amount of money he managed was north of 20 billion. He just met one of his neighbor in Connecticut, a guy who runs a hedge fund, and he realized that he was long score. And he connected with his neighbor, and his neighbor was like, yeah, of course, Bittensor. So my biggest bag is on score. And anyway, so that's funny. So yeah, I agree with you. Everyone in the finance world, hedge fund world is talking about TAO. And it's crazy to hear something that we can think of being like a bit naive, which is we missed Bitcoin, we could jump on TAO. It's a very, very naive statement when you're in crypto. But actually, I'm hearing this from a lot of finance people. They really believe that it's the case. So that's funny. I think that's going to bring a lot of liquidity.
Oh, I think it's the case. And I was there for Bitcoin in 2013, right? Yeah. Like when the price was exactly what TAO's price is right now. And I started watching that chart, the Bitcoin chart, like a hawk, like daily. Like I started chart watching in 2013, right? So it's now, what are we, 2025? I got like, 12 years, 13 years, whatever the fuck that is. I can't do math. Worth of chart watching daily in my head. And I watched Bitcoin kind of go blah, 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 and then I watched Ethereum basically track almost exactly what Bitcoin did. Then it diverged. But I know what those charts look like. TAO looks just like early Bitcoin and early Ethereum. Ethereum sort of petered out at like 4,500 or something like that. Yeah. But I think Ethereum doesn't have the 21 million only economics that Bitcoin did, right? So I think, and also I would say that, when I watched two phases of Ethereum, I watched the ICO phase and then I watched the DeFi phase. And even in both phases, I would say the ICO phase was like 95% bullshit, 5% good stuff. Yeah. I would say the DeFi summer was 80% bullshit, 20% high octane, really great stuff, that's still with us today. I would say that Bittensor is 80% high octane, good stuff, and 20% bullshit. I have never seen this before. So I just feel like it's all this concentrated, balled energy. And the people that are sort of my crypto only friends, they're largely, they got their MetaMask, they got their ledgers, they got their Phantom wallets with a PH. Yeah. And when they hear about TAO, they're like, no, how do I put it in my fucking MetaMask? How do I get these fucking subnet tokens on my MetaMask, right? Like that's where their brains go. And if they can't get it on their MetaMask, they don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Really I was talking about that with Michaela from Nova actually yesterday. And what we want to do is we want to team up with subnet owners and do the work of going to everyone like Solana Foundation, ETH companies, wallet companies and everyone, and try to kind of explain how they should help us to create this kind of one-click button, so people could buy alpha tokens. I agree with you. I mean, there's definitely a lot of traction.
Yeah, so I've seen several attempts at what you just described, some of which are going to launch soon, and some of them are pretty awesome. I think you're going to be pretty happy. I don't know if you've seen what I've seen.
No, I don't think so.
I've seen the thing, and I can't say what it is. I've seen the thing.
You're making me FOMO right now.
Oh man, yeah, no, what I saw last week. I'm just like, thank you, baby Jesus. This is like when my little picture in my head of like the magical universe that I was hoping was going to come. Like it's going to be here real soon. So yeah, it's real. So okay, so let's talk about your marketing efforts, because I think you're right, and I think of all the subnet owners, you have attacked subnet marketing with professionally produced podcasts. I got to say, your production values are even higher than mine, right? So you've got a pro host. You're like, I'm just a guy, right, with a room and a camera and whatever. But you've got like a pro host, and you've got like pro editing and lighting and the whole 9 yards. So who else? I don't think anybody else is doing that. Why did you decide to do that? And what's sort of the reaction been to it?
I would say maybe because we realized that we were not early enough in the ecosystem to be considered as a strong AI research team.
Yep.
So we just made the decision to stand out in a different way and create a new type of communication strategy for people to first focus on the brand and then realize we're actually doing good tech. It was kind of silly for us to try to compete with a Macrocosmos or a Templar. It's silly because they're so bright and it's so obvious that they're bright. Then we were like, maybe the blue ocean is not on trying to be a gigabrain, but to be actually a nice brand.
To market your way out of it. I love.
That was that. And honestly, also just one thing I'm going to share with you. So we started with a version of the subnet that was not good at all. That was called Score Predict. Everyone told us, we've been called out even by Const, and we weren't too proud to say that it was true. So we made the decision to move from some sort of a sports prediction subnet to a computer vision subnet. We kept the sports DNA because we knew that was the shortest route to revenue, but we actually went deeper from a tech perspective. And when we did this, when we announced the pivots, our emissions went down dramatically. So we went from 1.3%, so pre-dTAO, 1.3% to like 0.3%. And it was hard, really hard. So what we decided, because dTAO was around the corner, was to also take the good part of the crypto space, which is marketing is driving attention, and attention most of the time is driving PA, price action. And again, we couldn't compete against the gigabrain, so we just put more time and effort on creating a good brand.
Well, I saw you had Will Squires on your podcast, so it looks like you are recruiting the gigabrains onto your podcast. I watched episode 2 last night. So
thanks for that. I love Will. I mean, Will has been so supportive with us since the very early days. And yeah, that was such a good thing to have him on the podcast. By the way, you should come on the podcast too.
Whenever you want. I'd love to come on. Absolutely. So yeah, I'd be honored. So yeah, and especially, following Will Squires, who can follow that? But I'll try. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. The Macrocosmos guys are brilliant. They have 4 subnets now, I think.
I think so. I lost the count, but
yeah, yeah. No, I'm like, it used to be 3, but I think it's 4 now. So
I think it's 4. Yeah, I think it's 4. Yeah, maybe 5.
And their IOTA one is like the new one, right? So which is sort of a competitor to Templar, sort of not.
Yeah, free training.
Yeah. So I haven't really dug too hard into that, but I think I do think that they're Brainiac subnets, right? They're not as, and Templar also is a Brainiac subnet. Those are moonshots. Those are very 0 to 1 projects where if they win, they are the gods of the universe. But they're not sort of going after. There is no sort of little crossing the chasm market that they can go after, like what you're doing, right? So
we need them. We need them because that gives such a big credibility. That shows that we are doing like strong AI things. So yeah, these are moonshots, but we actually really need them.
We do need them, but they're not really well suited to the dTAO universe, right? Which is sort of forcing people, right? Like the old research PBS. Like this is a debate, right? Like, is the purpose of dTAO and Bittensor to boot things up with very, instead of going to VCs and raising money and burning that money, just boot up a subnet and you get a bunch of free work, right? For which but that's sort of, and it's just a condition of your existence that this is, as part of your VC fundraise, if you will, is that you're in the subnet and subnet token world, alpha token world, versus no, BitTensor is PBS, right? You're supposed to live forever off of emissions so that we can do these moonshot projects. And that's just, we should never, and those things should never get to revenue or don't have to. Right. And I hear two opinions on this, right? Like there's very wildly different opinions on whether that should exist. I love the fact that Templar and Will Squires exist. I agree with you. And I feel like they bring cred to the entire ecosystem because this is like the serious person's universe. And I think we need that. And right? Because we've got the crypto side, which makes people think we're bullshit artists, right? So we need like the brainiacs here too. People are like, it looks like there's some smart people there.
Yeah, so, I know that Macrocosmos is also getting revenue from different customers. So I think it's probably just a matter of time. And the thing you just pointed in the right, you pointed out the fact that dTAO, I think it's also brought up a different time frame. Yeah. So people are going to be impatient, which I get, but moonshots are very, very important for the ecosystem. Honestly, I'm a huge revenue guy. I mean, we've been talking about that, but without Templar, without Macrocosmos, without Targon, without Shoots, we wouldn't be considered as like a serious Web3 AI protocol.
Now, you mentioned in the podcast that I watched last night that you're using Subnet. You're using one of Macrocosmos'
Subnet. Subnet 13. Yeah. We are. We partnered with Macrocosmos, and when the first, when our customer, like our sports betting customer, would start generating revenue by the new season in late August, we would start kicking part of the revenue back to Macrocosmos too as a data provider.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. Very
Which,
good.
By the way, for us is also very important. So, what I'm trying to do now with my very, very little platform is to vouch for subnet collaboration. And also some sort of an abstraction where a customer could come and just use all different subnets without even thinking about, all the scaffolding. So I think we should really promote subnet collaboration. When we needed to, and before Basilica, when we needed to train a model, for instance, we went and, we used Cilium. When we needed some data, some extra data for our AI agent, we went directly to Subnet 13. I think we should all do this. We should all try to see what we can, bring to each other. We should introduce ourselves to different customers, opportunities. I think we should definitely do this. It's positive sum. It's a positive
subnet composability.
Oh yeah,
like DeFi.
I love that.
Yeah, and the reason we do it is partly because we're a Keiretsu, and we're all joined together at the hip by the underlying TAO token. 100%. So it's right. So if I'm in Subnet X and I can use Subnet Y, or I can just use a vendor that has nothing to do with BitTensor, it's in my interest to use Subnet Y because that will drive value to BitTensor. That will drive 100%. To the TAO token.
100%.
Yeah. So very interesting. Yeah, because I don't think we've never had an ecosystem before where a base token has created a Keiretsu. Sort of Ethereum and DeFi, but it isn't as directly related.
Yeah.
The value creation driving everything in the TAO that doesn't exist in Ethereum because you just you spend your ETH and then it's gone and you don't give a fuck, right? And ETH sort of gas and ephemeral and away it goes. Whereas TAO is a very different. The tokenomics and the way it works is just extremely different.
Yeah.
So okay, well we're almost up on the hour, so I just want to. First of all, thank you. But I also want to ask you, what were you doing before this? Where do you come from? How did you end up coming into this universe?
So my background is I was working in advertising before in the early days. Then I started a company and we were trying to mine Bitcoin with green energy. That was like late 2016. But I was too close to the metal. That was like an engineering play. I'm more of a business person, marketing type of person. So I just enjoyed the crypto side of things, but not really the engineering side of things. So I went back to something more digital, helped some projects go to market, learned a lot about game theory and stuff like that, tokenomics. Started working for a protocol that was called Human Protocol, and we were annotating data for AI companies using a global workforce. I was really passionate about their vision, not so on the product roadmap. So I was still trying to understand how I could leverage like a crowd of people to create value. And I ended up co-founding a company called CrunchDAO. And we built a community of machine learning engineers to create machine learning models for banks, hedge funds, financial institutions. And I learned a lot about decentralized intelligence then. In parallel, I met with my current co-founders, Nigel and Tim, and they were extremely well connected in different world, tech, sports. They built a company together that they sold to a public company in the UK, so they know how to do business too. And we started working with athletes, one of them being Harry Kane, the England captain. We built an app with him. We started talking with players, coaches, and I don't know why, but at some point someone, I think that was a football manager, he turned to us and say, why don't you do what you're doing in finance, but in the world of sports? And it started like that. And then we started trying to do, so we launched the Subnet, tried to do predictions, realized we need to do computer vision, and yeah.
And here you are. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, because you definitely, I love the fact that your DNA is that of a marketer and that of a business person. And it's very clear the way you run your Subnet. Which is, I think we need more U's in our little universe, at least to begin with, right? So we also need the brainiacs, but we also need more U's. So I'm really, really happy that you're one of our Subnet owners and operators. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for that, Mark.
Well, thank you, Max. I really, really appreciate you taking some time to come and explain your universe to us. And I'm sorry it took me again so long to get to you. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. Here we are now. So, all right, everybody. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been Hash Rate. We'll see you all next time.